everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of our ongoing Coffee Talk series. Each of these episodes is organized by the hardworking folks at Redmond Magazine and features the observations and insights of an independent expert on a wide range of tech industry topics. Many thanks to the underwriting sponsor of this particular episode, Quest. Without their support, this series and this episode would not be possible. And thanks to you for joining us. I'm Gladys Rama, the editorial director of Converge 360, and I'll be moderating today's episode, which is titled Attack Roundup, Top Remote Device Threats in Q4 and Beyond, and How to Stop Them. Our main presenter is a returning expert here, Greg Schulz. Nice to have you back, Greg.
Great. Thank you, Gladys. And hello and welcome, everybody, to today's discussion, Attack Roundup, Top Remote Device Threats in Q4 and Beyond. And I think as important, if not more important, how to stop them, how to prevent them, how to address them and deal with them.
Real quick, Greg, before we get going, I want to mention a couple of housekeeping details for the audience here. First of all, I'm going to go run through these real quick. This episode is being recorded, so you'll get a link from us in a couple of days. So keep an eye on your inbox. Second, we are going to make some time today during Greg's presentation and our second presentation today for a Q&A. So as the presentations happen and questions occur to you, please do throw those into your Q&A inbox as soon as into the Q&A console, as they come to you, and we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. Third, our sponsor today, Quest, has a bunch of extra resources for you that you don't want to miss related to this topic. So check them out. They're also available in your console. And finally, as a small thank you to the first 200 attendees who stick with us to the end, we are sending you a $5 gift certificate to Starbucks. And as you've met Greg already, just real quick about information about Greg. As I said, he's a returning expert here with us and a crowd favorite. And he's also the founder and senior advisor at StorageIO, an independent IT advisory, consultancy, and creative services firm. He's also a Microsoft MVP in cloud data center management, a 10-time VMware V expert, and the author of several books. So you're in for a great session. Greg, take it away.
Outstanding. Thank you again, Gladys, and hello and welcome everybody to today's discussion. I am Greg Schulz, and as mentioned, we are going to talk about top remote device threats and Q4 and beyond and how to stop them. So yes, we are live today. So anyway, real quickly, here's our agenda. Here's what we're going to talk about. The top remote device threats, i.e. that big picture. We're going to take a look at what are the issues, the trends, the challenges, and opportunities. In other words, what can be done to address them, to prevent the problems, to remediate them. We'll take a look at best practices, some tips, next steps, and of course some Q&A discussion. And reminder, submit those Q&As and we'll get to them. All right, so with that in mind, we got a bunch to cover here to roll through. We're going to move fast here because it's coffee talk time. And yes, I've been drinking coffee. Okay, who does this apply to? The big picture. Real simple. Organizations of all types, size, and focus areas, from public to private, nonprofit, businesses, schools, governments. Where are these devices? Where are these remote devices located? I think the better question is, where aren't they? Certainly with mobile workers and work from home, IoT devices, edge, remote, branch office, small offices, campus, the edge, and connected as well as disconnected, i.e. offline environments, aka submarine mode, where not necessarily where you're in or on a submarine, but where you're disconnected for some period of time and then your device reconnects and uploads and syncs and does different things, stuff like that. In offices, conference rooms, training rooms, classrooms, in schools, especially where you have your intelligent or smart whiteboards with these USB ports where you plug something in and you upload your content and then you go home and find out that you picked up a virus on your thumb drive because you thought that whiteboard was a dumb device. Well, it can happen in meetings, in conferences, event venues, hotels, resorts, airports, where you've got access at a partner site, a client, in a warehouse, a factory. In other words, it's more like where aren't the remote devices? Okay, Well, with that being said, what are the remote devices? Well, again, they vary. A lot of different things. They could be physical and virtual machines and desktops, i.e. Laptops, physical, but also running VDI, virtual desktop infrastructures. They can be remote hyper-converged stacks and servers, mini servers, as well as workstations. They could be a point-of-sale devices and self-service kiosks. I mean, when was the last time you, say, went to a check-in, check-out counter at some venue, at some place, maybe checking out, maybe at the doctor's office, whatever, and you've got the worker there with the big giant monitor sitting in front of them, and then stuck on the back of that monitor is like, it could be an Intel NUC, it could be an Asus, a Dell, an HP, but just a little tiny mini workstation with USB ports and stuff like that. Hopefully those ports are disabled so that I can't just simply plug a thumb drive in and mess with them. But those are all remote devices. Certainly workstation, laptops, tablets, smartphones, smart TV displays. I mentioned the interactive whiteboards that literally have computing power that you can do work with, and they can be either standalone or connected. And that brings us to devices that are wired or wireless, including your access points, your extenders, routers, things like that. Then we have the removable storage devices, SD cards, micro SD cards, Thunderbolt, USB, NVMe portable devices, things that you can carry data in, download data to, that could be carrying an infection of some sort. And certainly cameras, door locks, sensors, all your different IoT things. So there's a lot of different aspects. There's a lot of different things going on here. So what I want to show you here, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. Sometimes, well, let's just get to it. Here's the thing. In this particular slide, in this particular image, on that left, we have a bad actor, an attacker. They could be internal, they could be external. You know, we often think about that external bad actor that's going to attack your organization. Well, it could also be somebody internal that does something intentional. They want to cause disruption, damage. They're not happy, whatever the terms might be. But it could also be accidental. But here's the thing: is over in the left, you have that attacker or bad actor that attacks a remote device that impacts the initial target or targets, a user. They might have attacked your phone. It might have attacked your laptop or your tablet, maybe via email, maybe via a text message or a direct message or something like that, that you in turn, your device becomes impacted to some degree, that in turn then has this downstream effect. And we've seen this in some recent large-scale attacks. For example, the Las Vegas casinos, where somebody was attacked, their device was compromised, credentials were gained with the idea of using those to further other attacks further downstream. So hopefully this makes a common sense that, yeah, this is what the impact is. This is what the threats are. And again, it could be large, it could be small. We heard about the Las Vegas casinos, but you had the Minneapolis Public School District impacted here recently. You had the California Finance Department. So in other words, organizations of all types and size. And as I mentioned, there could be the intentional acts or attacks, and they could also be accidental. Okay, so having said that, let's, having looked at the big picture, let's take a little bit closer look at the trends, issues, the challenges, and opportunities. Okay, that opportunity to fix things, to get things right. And the importance is protecting these remote devices is making sure that your organization is protected, that you're guarding and protecting your physical and your digital assets from, including devices, but also your data and your apps. You're protecting your intellectual property, i.e. the other IP besides your IP address. again, protecting your apps, your data, your trade secrets, other confidential information. But you're also protecting your reputation, your image, your ability to do business or provide services, whatever it is that you're using the technology to support. And again, it could be from an intentional or accidental. So what are the issues? Is this just about being attacked? No, it's much more than that. Certainly that is a big focus area. But it's also devices are accidentally being compromised, damaged, lost, or stolen. Information, data, and apps are being compromised. There's a lack of good security, data protection, device and app remediation or support, or if you like the buzzword, lack of good IT hygiene or lack of security hygiene. But there can also be that accidental deletion of files, documents, data, and things like that. So moving on, again, the threat risk and their impacts are the bad actors that are looking to disrupt things. They might want to disrupt. They might want to cause chaos. They might want to damage. They might want to delete or destroy. They might just simply want to disrupt with a digital denial of service attack. They may be looking to gain access to your credentials so that they in turn can launch a further attack to go after somebody else. But also keep in mind, we're hearing AI everywhere, okay? The bad actors, the attackers are using AI. They're using specifically generative AI to be able to do things in new ways and at a larger scale. In other words, they figured out that, hey, if they can create a better sounding script, a better sounding pitch to you with images and with grammar checking and all these things that in the past might have tipped you off to a phishing scheme, they're figuring out how to correct that and make it more convincing for you to be compromised. So we got to watch out for that. As I mentioned, there's the accidental and physical or logical damage by workers, accidentally deleting something, dropping that remote device, forgetting to put an update on that leaves a vulnerability. But also that inadequate offboarding when employees leave or plan to leave. That lack of event logging, revocation of access, signs that data has been accessed and compromised. There's a lot of different things going on here. And why are the remote devices at risk? Well, they're being used at home and maybe being shared. Maybe somebody's playing solitaire or doing their homework on a remote device. Well, it's not being used for what we'll call authorized or real work something. Poor security, physical and logical. I think we've been there where you're in a lobby somewhere at an airport, at an event, a conference, and somebody gets up, they leave, they walk away from their laptop or tablet, they don't lock it, and maybe they'll just say, hey, can you watch my laptop for a minute? Well, they go walking down the hall. Well, you got to go catch a flight, you got to go to a meeting, you're doing a conference call so you can't watch it. Yeah, we've been there. We've seen it. Hopefully you don't do it. I mean, you get in that habit of you're walking away from your computer, make sure it is physically secured, but also logically secured so that somebody can't just go in there and do something nefarious or put a prank on you, or something like that. So we have to remind ourselves of that, is watch out for that poor hygiene. And likewise with the sharing of portable media. Somebody says, hey, I got this great thing here, plug it in. I'm like, let me wait and I'll run a scan on it. No. You got to do it right now. Well, can you send me the web link right now? You got to watch out for some of these things. So here's the thing. What happens when you plug a device into a public Wi-Fi, hotspot, Bluetooth, or USB port? When you enable that screencast or other forms of device sharing? When you're using shared documents like Google Docs, OneDrive, the list goes on, SharePoint. When you're sharing USB and other portable media, and you haven't checked it out. And I mentioned already, leaving a device unattended in public places, or even you left the device on in your hotel room or in your office while you go somewhere else for a little bit, thinking that it's safe and secure. And then again, there's that physical damage to it. So all these things add up. But we've got some more things. What about, okay, so hopefully we've talked enough about here are the problems, here are the challenges, here are the threats. And oh, by the way, what do we do? How do we make sure that if I drop my laptop that I'm able to get it repaired, or that I haven't lost any data? Or how do I prevent a vulnerability if somebody be able to do a zero-day exploit, or be able to come in through an opening that was unintentionally left open, whatever. All right, so with that in mind, let's talk about protecting your remote devices and environment. Okay, so several different things on how to protect your remote devices. And what it comes down to is good remote device hygiene. Hopefully it's a little bit of common sense, but education and awareness. Your users, who's using your remote devices, whether they're in the core office or in a branch office, a work group, at home, traveling, that they're communicated, that they're educated, they're aware of what the threat risks are and what the probability or the chances are. And it might be where in certain geographies or in certain locations, there might be more at risk. It might be a better idea is don't bring your full laptop. Maybe just bring a smartphone or something. Maybe get some common sense plays into it, that education awareness, and teaching people why when you get that link that says it's from a reputable source, a bank, the IRS, or whatever it is, that hopefully your systems are blocking those or are filtering and trapping them. But if they do get through, that they're educated. Don't click on that link. Whatever you do, don't click on that link. Or maybe they know not to click on email links, but what about when they get that Facebook direct message or that Instagram direct message or a text that's got a link on it, it's got a URL, a website, or a nice image that you want to click on. Use caution. Use caution. If you're not sure of it, ask. And this ties into one of the threat risks. As I mentioned, the bad actors are using technology in new ways and to do old things, to leverage it for automation, to be able to attack in new and different ways. And certainly we know about the email scans. Hi, this is Microsoft support. I want to fix your computer. Let me remote. Okay, we know about those. But now you've got these new ones where the script that they're reading is more accurate, but they're also being run through chat AI generative type tools where they're combining voice from maybe people you know or recognize, and instead of just phishing, they're doing video and voice phishing. Hi, this is the CEO of the company, and I'm locked out. I'm traveling. I'm about to go into a major meeting. Can you unlock my email for me? Sorry, I can't right now. I know you're the CEO, but I'm under orders not to do that for you. Okay. That's part of that awareness that we've got to watch out for. So we've got these new threats. So it's, besides awareness, it's staying current with updates and patches. Hey, that may not be as fun or exciting as talking about AI and a lot of these other things, but it's bread and butter. It's the fundamentals that you have to stay current with your software updates up and down the full stack, from the remote device all the way back to the core, from the apps to the OSs, not just your software, your firmware, everything that collectively fixes and remediates and closes things, and that those fixes, those updates are being managed, that they're trusted, versus somebody just saying, here, apply this update and everything will be good for you. So there's leveraging that and leveraging automation to do that. Certainly working in there about physical and logical security and different severity levels, knowing what those are, knowing about the risk, the threats, and what's applicable in their severity. Having good data protection, the backups, being able to back up or snapshot or copy or clone, checkpoint, consistency point, whatever it happens to be, but that where your data is somewhere else. Back when I was working in IT, I had a director, And the theory, the basic principle, the fundamental principle was we can't go forward as a business if we can't go back in time. You can actually flip that around too, which is if we can't go back in time, we can't go forward as an organization. And it's a real simple, common sense, but a fundamental thought that even if you're out of device and even if everything is on the cloud, you still need to have that granular protection so that you can recover, not if, when something happens. And that also ties in with managing, monitoring, event logging. Okay, so I mentioned staying current with updates, make sure patches, updates are applied, cleaning remote devices, doing good maintenance. All right, so we've got several more here. We've talked about that education. And again, this webinar, as Gladys mentioned, is being recorded. So you can come back and at your leisure, look through all these checkbox items, these to-do things. The education, physically and logically securing things, whether it's disabling USB ports or putting restrictions on them. What are you going to be able to do to make it tougher for a casual attacker to try to do something? And again, there's that physical, there's that logical, adding identity access management, multi-factor authorization, two-factor authorization. Yeah, it's kind of a pain having to take your authenticator and punch in the key code, but with the attacks today, it's a lot easier doing that versus having to go through a recovery, a rebuild, a restoration, a restart, or a lot of other things that start with R. Logically locking in unattended devices, restricting access, who can use that device, implementing a zero trust paradigm, certainly leveraging, VPNs, zero trust networks, auto locks, password limits, PINs, bioauthentication, enabling encryption, things that we should say are fundamentals. Okay. Having good backups, having good data protection that allow you that fine-grained restoration. Maybe only a small piece of data or a single app was impacted, but how can you recover that? Or is it safer just to restore everything? But to have that ability, how easy is it to fix and repair versus replace? Who has access to the backups or the snapshots? Who can actually do a restoration into where? And certainly making sure that everything is encrypted and that the data protection systems, your management systems, are also protected, that they don't become that single point of failure. And oh, by the way, when was the last time you tested a restore? Okay, some more things here. A lot of things around managing, monitoring, leveraging automation tools. Leveraging tools to do that data protection, for checking for security gaps, for checking for vulnerabilities, for checking and enabling that the different remote devices are at their current levels of where they should be at, for firmware, for software, for various updating. And not just the software, but updating policies and your various settings and things like that. Having monitoring and detection, logging, automatic alerts so that when something happens, that then you're able to have the system do more work for you so that you're able to do more work in other areas. Okay, so best practices, tips, next steps. What can we do? The big thing is being aware. Certainly being aware of what can happen, where it can happen, what are the devices? Where are the exposure points? What are the vulnerabilities? Is key. That's the big part to it. There's leveraging the technology, leveraging different tools and automation. AI comes into the picture because AI is being used for attacking, but it can also be used as for part of a defense, detecting, context-aware protection, things like that. But there's also these general things that should be common sense that we just need to remind people. I'm not going to read through that list, but they should be common sense. And again, get the replay. You can go back through these at a more leisurely pace and see what these things that you should be doing. in the solution to protect now and going forward, the thing is that we're seeing it in Q4. We've seen it already this year. We are going to see more attacks on remote devices on a go-forward basis. And these attacks, some of them are going to be technology-based that we've got to watch out for. A lot of them are going to be social engineering-based, where it's the people that are being attacked per se, logically attacked, that is, to try to compromise them to get information, to try to fool that person in to unlocking something, to resetting a password, to updating a PIN, whatever it is, so that they can either do that attack or do a further attack, get further into a system, and whether it's to cause damage to your organization or to be able to run their attacks on other entities, other organizations, using your systems to do it. Or maybe just do some crypto mining from your servers. So what this means is leveraging technologies and tools. Those tools and technologies are only going to be as good as your policies on how you define and tell them what to do. So have policies in place for security, data protection, remediation, access management, protecting the devices both physically and logically, but also a culture that fosters security and productivity versus one that is centered around blame and shame. It was their fault or they did this. Now figure out why collectively something happened. Do your postmortem, do your incident response, but figure out why it happened and how to prevent it. You know what? It should go without saying, don't leave portable devices on the top of a vehicle as you get in and out. Don't leave them poolside or at a table in a coffee shop or hotel or airport while you go do something. Oh, and asking somebody to watch your device while you go elsewhere, it's not a good idea. Common sense might not be common. However, common sense can be a great defense, particularly when it's your common sense that you can help defend against some of these more intelligent attacks that are coming on. All right, let's start to wrap up here. Just real quickly, a couple of notes here. Don't be scared, be prepared, be informed. Everything's not the same. Why treat it the same? Granted, there's similarities. Know your workload, know your apps, leverage the technology, but keep people educated and informed. Your workforce, your partners, your clients. And balance that good security with user productivity. There's some different resources, some of my different books, my blog, where you can find more information. I'm on Twitter. But with that, let's bring back Gladys. And do we have time for a couple Q&As before we transfer to Dave?
We sure do. We have a couple of great questions here. I'll start with the one from Raphael because it tackles two elephants in the room. He asked, what type of zero trust paradigm would you recommend against AI?
Yeah, so first off, zero trust means just what it infers, zero trust, that you have zero trust in who is accessing or what is accessing, that trust needs to be vetted. It needs to be validated using proper credentials. So you take that paradigm that even if they're in the building, that you can't trust them until they validate and that they're vetted and that they have the rights, the roles only applicable to do what they need. And what that means is that it can be a paradigm, just that basic process of instead of trust yet verify, no, zero trust, vet, validate, okay, then grant access. That can then be done with different tools and technology, with different hardware, software, and tools. So part of that is leveraging intelligent tools, smart tools, AI-enabled tools to help with the detection, to help with that authentication and that validation that, look, hey, we've got Greg trying to log in at 1:29 p.m. on the 30th, and it looks like he's in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, but we just saw him trying to log in 2 hours ago from Tokyo. What's up with that? That's part of that context aware. Or that we're seeing these pattern of the same from IP addresses. So part of that zero trust is leveraging the AI tools to help provide that context, sift through all these alerts that are being detected that might not be meaningful, put some context around them to be able to help defend. In other words, you're using the AI to defend against the AI, if that makes sense.
Completely does. And actually, that's a great follow-up to the next question here from Jason, who asks, what role does AI play in protecting remote devices?
Yeah, well, there's the magic pixie dust where just say AI and we get, I don't know, some background music and everything is magically, you know what, maybe someday we'll get there. Where it comes down to today, right now, is leveraging tools that can automate, that can detect, that can go out and say, hey, you know what, the remote device is vulnerable because it's out of date, whether it's its OS or a file system or an app, or, you know what, they haven't changed their credentials in a while, or this is an interesting pattern on what they're using for, maybe passwords or something else that should be changed. So a lot of it can be something as simple as that automation, where you've got the tools that are able to go out there and look at things, put some context around it. That's a key part of it, is looking at it and connecting dots that otherwise might not seem connected, but when put together, that might be a point of risk. Going through and looking and say, yeah, these are known footprints, fingerprints, known patterns. All right, we better make sure that our devices, that everything is protected, and that could also mean running a quick compliance and coverage check. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sorry, Greg, I was muted. Totally rookie move. I should know
No worries. Like I said, we are live.
Right, exactly. Here's what I was saying. Here's a great question here from MJ for you. What's your take on VPN for remote devices? I've been hearing a lot that they are not as secure as once considered, and it's time for us to find different ways to connect people.
All right.
So VPN for security remote devices, yay or nay?
Yeah, okay. This is, let me just give it straight up. It depends. Okay. Is a VPN good? A VPN is better than nothing. All right. Do you want to evolve to a newer type of technology where you evolve from a classic VPN that gets you in essentially the front door, and then you're able to move around? Yeah, you want to evolve to that, i.e. leverage a zero trust network, a zero trust device, that zero trust sort of capabilities that take you beyond just a simple classic VPN, but also avoids some of the performance issues, working around issues where you might be impacted because of a false verification, where you might be on a valid IP, but it's been flagged, okay? So I guess you have to look at it in practical standpoints, and that if I'm trying to convince you to go out and get brand new zero trust based solutions, I'm going to tell you VPNs are bad, and basically everything except what I'm trying to convince you of isn't a good idea. But having a VPN, is it better than nothing? It can be better than nothing. You should be doing something.
Right. And then I'm going to squeeze in a question here from Jason. What's your take on devices with security at the hardware level? Is it worth it to buy into these devices for your remote workers, or should we pursue different types of security remediation?
Yeah, this comes down to my favorite response, which is it's going to depend on your environment, your level of sensitivity, your security requirements. Certainly having things like TPMs or trusted platform modules that have that basic security, or that can do hardware-based encryption and authentication, are good. And where needed is having those secured authentication type devices. Those are all good, but applicable to what is your relative risk? What is your relative environment? Again, watching out for, treating everything the same, but also avoid, everything is different, but there's similarities to it. So there is a place for it. And if that is your concern at the remote device, then you better be doing confidential compute in the cloud, not only with trusted machines, but with secured memory and a lot of the other things that fall under confidential compute.
Perfect. I think that's all the time we have for audience Q&A, Dave, or excuse me, Greg, but if people want to follow up with you on a question of their own, I think you had your contact info up a couple of minutes ago. Do you want to put that up again so that people can know where to find you and stalk you on the internet if they have a question about your talk here?
Yeah, no worries. No worries. There you have it. I'm easy to track down.